Yes, Darren's got a completely uncontroversial topic to be discussing. It's time for Grime Time.
Now, I want to put it to you straight. The United Kingdom's in a stickier wicket than Israel. Yep, Israel's up against it. What with Hamas, West Bank upheavals and Hezbollah in the north, over 1,400 Israelis, of course, paid the ultimate price in a terrorist massacre. And hostages, who knows where they are by now. But Israel stands firm, like a dog that's got its teeth into something tasty. They're protecting their patch, the world's only Jewish state. It's a show of unity that should make us in good old Blighty a tad envious, if we're being honest with ourselves. Because right now, the UK's version of unity, well, it don't look all that great if you ask me. It's about as real as a £3 note. Our unity is like expecting a group hug at a Newcastle-Sunderland derby. Fat chance of that. We might not have rockets raining down, but our streets are now battlegrounds of ideology. You've got kids bunking off school to wave placards about Palestine. Intifada and jihad being called for on the streets of London. And then there's the circus at Westminster, with Labour MPs getting the jitters over a ceasefire with Hamas and even facing intimidation outside of their offices for not voting for one. Last I checked, Hamas wasn't lobbing rockets over the White Cliffs of Dover. And what about the foreign flags draping over our war memorials? These demonstrators clambering over monuments to wave their banners, spitting in the face of those who secured the very freedom that lets them carry on like ungrateful brats. It's not about the stone, it's about the principles it stands for. The stone, of course, being one thing that one of the protesters shouted at the police. "Why are you defending that stone over children?" she said. Well, as they trampled over said stone underfoot, I want to say, what about those boys that died so that you might be free to do such a thing? Our immigration policy is about as tight as a sieve. Nations are queuing up to bail from the European Convention on Human Rights like it's a sinking ship. We must join them on the border control lifeboats. What we've built in the West is a marvel, but now it's in peril. It's not just the loonies doing the damage, it's our own head in the sand attitude. So I say it's time for a wake-up call, Britain. A strong cuppa ain't gonna fix it this time. Well, Benjamin Butterworth, since that it's the people that you vote for, it's their fault that we're in this mess, so how do you propose we go about it?
First of all, I've no idea why you think I disagree, because I've not disagreed in any week. But the idea that it's Labour Party responsible is also complete nonsense, because Keir Starmer has explicitly condemned these people. He's condemned this attitude, and it's not his view. He's been steadfast. In fact, I saw a repugnant protest, if you can even call it that, outside his constituency office today, in which they were attacking his wife and kids who are practising Jews. And I think that shows that there is no lows these people will go to. But look, if they want to strategically affect the Labour Party's decision-making, I think criticising his wife and kids, who have, aside from the party conference speech, his wife has never done a public appearance, she's not in public life at all and has no desire to be, that is not a route to affecting Labour Party policy.
I mean, Albie, we've even seen it with the Conservative benches as well, because Suella Braverman, I know you're not her biggest fan. She's
Certainly
not
not.
win any awards from you.
No.
But I saw some rhetoric which was basically suggesting that Suella Braverman was only pro-Israel because she's got a Jewish husband. Like, that sort of thing is just grotesque.
It is grotesque, but also, Darren, I think to use the hyperbole of Israel's terrorist attack to compare that to the problems we're facing in the United Kingdom is disgraceful as well.
I don't think it's long before
How
we
can
face
you
the same.
compare the mess that we all agree the United Kingdom is in because of decades of mismanagement from both Labour and Conservative governments to people literally being killed in the thousands in a small country like Israel, people who are still under hostage now? Like, you can't just make these flippant comparisons. I understand you're trying to make a broader point, but some Israelis might find that quite offensive, actually.
Well, they may do, but I had one Israeli...
Will you be OK with insulting Israelis in that way?
I mean, Albie, are you really being serious, asking me if I'm all right with offending?
Well, you're the one that just compared the mess in the UK to a terrorist attack in Israel.
By now, you think I'm going to get down and cry over offending somebody? If someone finds that offensive, I think it's a really important point that needs to be made. I had one Israeli on the show earlier today, and they were saying that actually what Israel are up against is a warning to places like Britain, because what we're seeing play out on the streets could lead to the kind of horrible scenes that were seen in Israel. And I think that warning is one that needs to be heard loud and clear. But Belinda, do you agree?
I think anti-Semitism and just Jewish hatred has been simmering in this country for years, and the Conservative government have done very little to address it, and now it's bubbling over. Back in 2020, you had the convoy of cars with the Palestinian flags going up and down Jewish streets, shouting that they were going to sexually assault Jewish mothers, Jewish daughters. Nothing happened to those men. Nothing. So what we're seeing is the result of years of complacency, years of soft-touch approach, because let's be honest, many of us think that our authorities and our government have had a soft-touch approach to radical Islamism in this country and have allowed the hard left to infiltrate our schools and university, sanitising drip anti-Semitism sort of ideologies. I'm a mother, I've got mothers in schools. It is left-wing bias that is almost making it acceptable racism now to blame the Jews for everything. And the Conservatives haven't taken it seriously enough, but it's both the Labour and Conservatives to blame for this greed for cheap labour, unconditional. Wherever you're from, whatever you think, whatever your ideology, come because we want to make money. They should have been more careful, and if hateful ideologies were going to root in this country, they should have stamped it out straight decades ago instead of allowing them to bubble over to the surface, which is what we're seeing now.
Alex, are you optimistic about Britain's future?
I think you know the answer. No, I mean, look, I'm always optimistic about Britain. I believe we can always come back from terrible times like we saw in the wars that we just remembered over the weekend. And to go to the point that you're both making here, because I think there's some valid points on both sides. You know, I'm a free speech absolutist. I do believe people should have free speech, no matter what the cost is. There is a limit to free speech. I think Douglas Murray put this perfectly. He said there is a limit to what a culture should tolerate, what a society should tolerate. That is where free speech should hit the boundary. I think protesting on a weekend...
You said you were a free speech absolutist.
Hang on. Yes, fair enough. I'll take that point. I'm a free speech absolutist.
Want to learn the definition of speech.
Maybe I need to learn the definition of absolutist. However, my point really is that there's a time and place to do protesting and to make it impactful. What's happened over the last weekend that just passed, is that there was a protest organised on a significant day of cultural remembrance for this country. Not only that as well, the wars that we remember were a massive slaughtering of Jewish people in the masses. So to do it on a day that's not only touchy for British people, but touchy for Jewish communities is really in bad taste. Now, if you want to win people over to your cause, you first of all have to learn to respect the environment, the country and society you're in, and remember that you can only win hearts and minds if you actually try to win them and not just scream and shout at them.
Through intimidation and fear, which is what's happening, yeah.
Well, let me ask a question to each of you then, because we've only got about 30 seconds left of this. Do you think actually we need to reform our immigration system to take this into account?
Yeah, I do, but I also think we need integration policies for the people who arrive here, so they know British values and they take responsibility for integrating, because I do want national unity and I do think it's possible. I'm optimistic as well if the Conservatives get integration right, which they failed on, I think, in many ways.
There's been no national integration policy in this country at all, and I spoke about it on this show a few weeks ago. I think it's a disgrace. The government needs to take a more active role in making sure our communities get on better. It's not good enough at the moment.
Look, there are lots of Muslims who don't act like this and don't think like this, but I think what's been exposed in the last couple of weeks is that there is a very real problem with anti-Semitism among sections of the Muslim community. They're also profoundly homophobic on a scale that no other community has. And I think we fail ourselves as a country when we pretend that those prejudices don't exist because they're more uncomfortable to acknowledge than others.
Alex, I've said time and time again that I think the Jewish community is a shining example of assimilation in this country.
Integration
and assimilation, both, actually. British Jews have come over to this country, including some of my ancestors, actually, and become Brits. They love this country first. They are British first. That being said, I also have a family member. My stepfather came here from Iran, and he is more than proud to be British. He has integrated in society. He has never once forced me or any of my little brothers who are half Iranian to ever think like an Iranian person. He wants them to be British.
It's less about religion, it's more about political ideology, though.
Correct.
Also, people that left Iran tend to hate Iran.
No, very true. Very good point.